Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's episode of Run It Up Wednesday. We are going to be talking about how to teach your kids to be rich. Oh my gosh. So excited about this topic. How to teach your kids to be rich. So many of us are working right now to fix our own money, fix our own finances. And it's so crucial and so key that we pass this knowledge down to our children. We have to pass this knowledge down to our kids. We had to, we talk about generational wealth all the time, but most of us do not have the foundation aligned in order to create wealth. So everybody wants to, we live in this microwave society, right? We live in a microwave society. Everybody wants everything super fast. Everybody wants to get to $1 million and beyond without setting the foundation. And you have to set the foundation for wealth management and money management before you can ever think about really taking advantage of gains from the stock market, really growing passive income. Okay. And so luckily, I'm going to teach you how to do all that today, because what you learn for yourself as an adult is actually a bit different than what you need to teach your kids. Okay. Hey, Valika. Hey, Dr. Nicole. Welcome. I'm so excited that you guys are excited for this topic. Hey, everybody on Instagram. As a reminder, if you see my head swiveling back and forth, that's because I'm addressing YouTube over here, and then I'm addressing Instagram over here. Okay, so that's why my head is moving. I want to make sure I'm addressing everybody. Let me know where you are watching from. And if you would like to benefit from all the goodness that I'm able to provide over here on YouTube that I can't do on Instagram, you're going to want to leave Instagram and meet me on YouTube. Just search for The Get Money Show. Just search for The Get Money Show on YouTube, and you will find me and everybody else who's here. Okay. But because the real party's over here, like this, all the comments, all the people are over here, and over here it's a little bit less of that. So come on over. I have the opportunity also to share links to show my screen and that sort of thing. I can't do that on YouTube. I mean, on Instagram, but I can do it on YouTube. So what's up, Denise? Calling in from watching from Raleigh, North Carolina. I am so glad that you are here. It's your first time live. Welcome. Valika is from Louisiana. I'm so proud of all of you for being here. This topic is something that's near and dear to my heart because as a mom, and as someone who has made grave mistakes with my money, and have, I was somebody, just story time real quick. I was somebody who, I grew up kind of poor, but I didn't really know I was poor. My mom was really good. My mom and my dad were really good at like turning $15 into $150 and turning that $150 into $500 and that sort of thing. But we didn't really have wealth, and I didn't truly know that we were not okay financially until it was time for me to go to college, and there was like no money for me and everything fell on me. I had to take out all these loans and that sort of thing, right? And so my mom taught me a lot about like how to pay off a mortgage early. She taught me a lot about how to get out of debt and how to stay out of debt, right? But what she didn't really teach me, and what my dad didn't really teach me either, was how to build the foundation so that by the time I got to be an adult, I already had like the playbook for how to manage my money. Because money, I hear people all the time, and this is some, I'm gonna come back to the point in 1 second. This is something I think about a lot. When we talk about dating and marriage, right? A lot of times people are focused on how much somebody makes. How much money does this person make? What's their salary? What is their income? And honestly, for me, I don't really care. And I'm gonna tell you why I don't care. I don't care how much money a dude makes. Here's why I don't care. Because I know people who make $60,000 a year, $75,000 a year, which is not a ton of money, right? But they have more wealth and more net worth than some people who make $1 million and $2 million a year. Because those people who have the $1-2 million a year who don't have any money, they haven't learned how to keep the money. It is not about how much money you make. Wealth is about how much money you keep and how much money you can grow, right? And so, your income is important, but it's actually not as important with how you manage what you have. How many times have we heard about sports players, right? Sports players who NFL, NBA, whatever, who have, $65 million, contracts. And then 5 years out of the league that they're in, they're dead broke. That's because they have not learned the foundation for money management. Okay, because they were so focused on their income, because $65 million is a lot of damn money, right? Not thinking this is not possibly going to last forever. So I need to manage this now for that time. I'm going to play and have this income far less years than I'm going to be out of the league. Let me make sure that I'm working this play really smartly so that by the time I am done playing, I have a lot of money left over and money that I've possibly grown during that time. So I'm not relying solely on my 65 million, hypothetically. I'm now relying on 100 million because my money has grown, right? All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to set that foundation. Okay. So here's how you're going to teach your kids to be rich. This is exactly what I teach my own child, who is now 13. Okay. This is the basics. Remember, what you guys do for yourself as adults is going to be a little bit different because your kids ideally don't have any debt. At least they shouldn't, right? They're kids. They don't have any debt. So they can actually afford to save more than you might be able to afford to save because, you have bills. They don't got no bills. Okay. So let's get into it. Let's get into it real quick. So the first thing is, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this channel if you have not done that already. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let's be friends. All right, so let's go. So the first thing that you're going to do to teach your kids to be rich is you're going to access them. I'm sorry. Amate, I see your comment. I didn't get an email from you at all. I didn't see it at least. So I'm going to write it down and I will respond to you. But I believe that you're in the My Rich Friends. So all you got to do is go to School, SKOOL, which is a platform that we host My Rich Friends on. And you can just click on the classroom and it will show you all the replays. I've made a post about it in School. And I also sent out a number of emails last week. So I think you're in My Rich Friends. So if you're not, that's a different story. I'll email you, but I'm going to make myself a note to get to that. Okay. I just want to address your question before I moved on. All right. So, hey, Karen. Dr. Nicole says, I'm a firm believer in teaching our kids early what we learned late. So true. I agree with you 100%. All right. First thing you're going to do is you're going to open up your kids okay, Amati. I'll send you an email then. I got you. I'll send you an email about it. All right. Sorry. Hold on, guys. I got to plug in my phone. Okay. First thing you're going to do is you're going to open them a high yield savings account. So I've made several videos about high yield savings accounts tons of times. Okay. If you have not seen any of those videos, you're going to want to watch some of my previous videos because I have talked about high yield savings accounts several times. So I'm not going to really get into that too much today. Bottom line is that a high yield savings account will allow you, or your child in this case, to be able to earn more passive income than in a traditional savings account. So for numbers purposes, a high yield savings account is going to get you, on average between 4.5% to 5% interest passively without you having to do any work. Okay. A traditional savings account is going to get you less than 1%. So it's a big difference. That's like 10 times more money with your money just sitting in this account. Right? It's the same deal. It's just a savings account, but one earns more interest than the other. That's the bottom line. Like you don't have to do anything special. You don't have to do anything extra. If you sign up for the right kind of account, you don't have to necessarily put in a minimum amount or anything like that. It simply just earns more interest. So why would you not have yourself or your child earn 10 times more than they would otherwise? Right? So that's the first thing. When you open up that high yield savings account, and again, I have to preface this and remind you guys that this is the strategy for your kids, not necessarily for you, though it's very similar, but it's different. Okay. Write this stuff down. You're going to open up that high yield savings account. The bank that I use is called Genius. That's Genius. That's the bank that I use. I don't get an endorsement from them. I just like them a lot. And so that's what I tell people to use. Okay. When you open up that high yield savings account, that first one, you're then going to open up 3 more accounts at that same bank. Okay. So you should have a total of 4 accounts for your kids. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different savings accounts. If you're using a bank like Genius or even, BMO Alto, which is another high yield savings account, New Tech Bank, really any of these banks, okay, They will allow you to have several accounts. Once you open up the first one, that's the most involved because you're going to have to put in, social security number and your name and your address and all that sort of stuff. But once you've got that first one done, open up another account is literally just a click of a button and you agreeing to whatever their terms are. That's it. Okay. Jenius, Keisha. Jenius. Genius Bank is the bank that I use and that I prefer. I'll put it on the screen so everybody can see it. Okay. That's the bank that I use. Now, again, there's other high yield savings accounts that you can use as well, but that's the one that I personally like and the one I use and the one I have for my son as well. You're so welcome, Keisha. All right. So you can open up these 4 accounts. When it comes to these accounts, I'm going to write this down on my whiteboard for you guys so you guys can maybe take a screenshot of it and remember it. Okay. So you're going to do one of those accounts. You're going to go in after you've opened all of them and you're going to change the names of them. And you're going to change it to savings 40. Oops. Hold on. I'm writing this down. I'm going to put it on the screen. Just give me a second. All right. Then you're going to open up another one that says spending 30. Then you're going to open up the third one, and that one's going to say investing 20. And then the fourth one is going to say giving 10. Okay. So this is how these are your accounts. So as you might imagine, the numbers indicate the percentages that are going to go into each of these accounts. So your savings account so your kid's savings account is going to be 40%. Your kid's spending account is going to be 30%. Your kid's investing account is going to be 20%. And your kid's giving account is going to be 10%. So 40, 30, 10, 40, 30, 20, 10. That's how I break it down. It's real simple to remember. It's not complicated. It's not like 15, 42, 67. Like, no. We're going to make it real simple for them to understand and for you to remember. All right. So it's 40, 30, 20, 10. 40, 30, 20, 10. The reason that they're saving more is because they don't have any bills, right? I mean, the biggest bill that they may have is like ice cream somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, so they don't have any bills. This is the benefit of youth and especially living at home with your parents, right? Because you don't have a whole lot of bills. You're covering all their food costs. You're covering all their housing. They don't have any rent to pay. At least they shouldn't, they're under 18. They don't have, exorbitant costs like some of us do as adults. Okay. Again, if you're watching on Instagram, unfortunately, Instagram turns the screen around. So you can't really see it in the way that it's written, but on YouTube, it's actually correct. So again, if you want that sort of experience, come on over to YouTube because, again, that's where the party is. That's where everybody's at. And I have more opportunity to really serve you in the best possible way with the best experience. Okay. Just search for The Get Money Show on YouTube and you'll find it. All right. So everybody follow me. Does everybody get this? Give me a thumbs up in the comments if you got this part or take a screenshot also. Give me a thumbs up in the comment if you got this and this makes sense so far. Let me know, y'all. Let me know. Let me know. Are y'all there? I don't see nobody saying nothing. Okay, there we go. This will be a little bit of a delay. Okay, so great. So this is what we're doing, okay? Now, I got my notes here because like I always do because I don't want to forget any points. No points do I want to forget because I write out these scripts and I want to make sure I give y'all all the goodness I have to teach you. So when you have this breakdown, like 40, 30, 20, 10, like I said, it helps you remember it, right? It's all good. She said we're just slow on the emojis. All right. It helps you remember it and it helps make it easy for them to remember also. Okay. But teaching your kids this process early helps them to value budgeting. A lot of us as adults, we have this really bad view of budgeting. Like budget is like a negative word almost, right? It's like nobody wants to feel restricted. And so for a lot of us, budgeting or having the word budget or creating a budget, it makes you feel like you can't do something. It makes you feel like you are denying yourself. Kind of like, I use diet and exercise a lot in my analogies when I talk about money. Because when it comes to budgeting, it kind of feels like a diet, and oftentimes diets don't work because we are feeling restricted. Like if, let's say we're on some sort of the keto diet, well, you can't have ice cream unless it's like carb no carb ice cream for some reason or whatever, right? And so, but you really want an ice cream sundae from Dairy Queen, right? You can't have that on a keto diet. I'm not telling you not to do keto, so I don't want anybody saying I said that. Keto is fine if that's what you want to do. But my point is that you are not allowed to have certain things. And so when it comes to a budget, it feels like that. Like, oh, well, I have to create like rules for myself, basically, that tell me, hey, you can't do this. But what budgets really allow you to do is really be honest with yourself and really see what it is that you're truly working with. So anybody who took my Fix My Money challenge should know this, right? If you took the Fix My Money challenge, comment FMM in the comments. Now, it actually creates more availability for what you're able to do because it helps you to stop living paycheck to paycheck. And what we don't want is for our kids to grow up living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of us, myself included, have had to live paycheck to paycheck at some point in our lives because we weren't even really clear on what we were truly working with, right? And so when you have a budget and you create this kind of like sentiment and this consistency and this discipline for your kids early, they grow up realizing this is just a simple part of life. It's like brushing your teeth, right? You don't wake up like, oh, should I brush my teeth today? No, you just do it. It's a part of your life. It's a part of your morning. For those of us who have a morning routine, some of us, we pray in the morning. Some of us, we meditate in the morning. Some of us go outside in the backyard and we ground, in the morning. Whatever it is that you do, that's part of your morning routine. You don't have to think about it. It's just something that you do. And so for those of us who are adults here, we had to learn this. We don't want them to have to learn it, right? We want to ingrain this with them so that when they become grown-ups, it's just something that they do. It's second nature. It doesn't feel weird. I think about it a lot like therapy. Like a lot of us grew up in an era where therapy was weird or you had to be crazy, quote unquote, to go to therapy, especially as, African-American, it was like not something that people did. But what I was really, me personally, what I was really, really focused on for my son is I wanted him to develop a relationship with a therapist early on before any issues occurred. Right. So as a child, he's 13 now. So he's in middle school and he's got the teenage thing going on. But when he was younger, I enrolled him in therapy early. Like he was like 7, just so he had somebody to talk to. That may not be me or may not be his dad or his stepdad. Right. It was just, here's a person that you talk to. We're going to normalize therapy for you. And I remember him telling somebody in the family that, oh, I got my therapy appointments on Thursday. And they were like, therapy? What's wrong with you? He's like, nothing. I just go talk to my therapist. It's very normalized for him because I personally believe in proactive therapy as opposed to reactive therapy. It's a lot easier for a therapist to be able to assist you when they know you, when they've kind of like had a background with you for years, and then some sort of issue arises. And now you have a built-in, they have a built-in backstory about you as opposed to you showing up when the problem has just now started to occur and they're trying to learn you and learn your nuances and quirks and that sort of thing and try to help you with textbook information as opposed to who you truly are. So I think about it a lot like that. So when it comes to your kids, we want to normalize budgeting. So it's not weird. It's not abnormal for them. This is a very normal process of life. Okay. So like I said, you're going to open an HYSA with those 4 accounts. Okay. Then you're going to open up one checking account at a totally different bank. It doesn't matter what the bank is because checking accounts don't pay a lot in interest anyway. So if you have a bank that you have a checking account with, feel free to open up a child's account, which would be called a custodial account. Feel free to open up that for your child as well. Okay. But the bank needs to be at a totally different bank. It should not be at the same bank that the savings account is at. Because what we're trying to do is separate and create out of sight, out of mind money so that they're not feeling like, oh, they got all this money available. They should just go spend it all. Because that's what kids do. That's what adults do, right? So 4 savings accounts at a high yield bank and 1 checking account at a totally different bank. Okay. When you do this, it's going to help them remember that they don't actually have access to the full amount, which is something that adults should do as well, right? Because if you get your paycheck, let's say your paycheck is $3,000, right? You get $3,000 check. You're like, oh, I got $3,000. No, you don't. You don't have $3,000 because you got to pay your mortgage. You got to pay your rent. You got to pay your car note. You got to pay all these different bills. By the time all of that's said and done, you either have no money because you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you have less than what you originally had in the check. And so what we want to normalize for the kids is to make sure that they realize, hey, whatever you got is not all your money. You have other things that you're saving for, investing in, giving away. Maybe he or she's saving for a video game or what have you. So they don't have all of that money. They have a portion of that money. Okay. So let's say your kid got $1,000. All right. Let's just use big round numbers. Let's say, birthday came around, a couple family members sent a couple $100 here and there. Somebody else sent them a few gift cards, whatever. They got $1,000. Okay. So your kid has $1,000. Okay. $1,000. But they don't actually have $1,000 because with 40, 30, 20, 10, how much do they actually have in savings? Right? They're going to have $400 in savings out of that 1,000. In spending, they're going to have $300. In investing, they're going to have $200. And in giving, they're going to have $100. That's how it works. So can y'all see those numbers? So when they talk about, oh, I want to spend however much money, I have $1,000. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, you don't have $1,000. You have $300 because you're saving $400. You're investing $200 and you're giving away $100. And we're going to talk about what to do with all these in a minute. Does that make sense? Say yes in the comments if that makes sense. Say no if it does not make sense. Let me know. Okay. So this is how I teach my son, because as soon as he gets some money, it's like it's burning a hole in his pocket, right? It's like he just got to spend it. He just got to spend it. He can't do anything but spend his money. And so we have to, we've created this budget for him where he realizes like, hey, you got $400 in savings. And so what that actually does for the kids is like, they realize in this example, they have $300 in savings, but they got $300 in spending, but $400 in savings. And so how great would it be to be able to go to your bank account and not see a zero because you spent it all on frivolous stuff? Like my son loves to go to 7-Eleven, which is like around the corner. It's where all the kids hang out in the neighborhood. Go to 7-Eleven and spend $20 here, $15 here, $5 here, $2 here. And by the end of, 3 months or whatever, all your little $1,000 is gone and you spent it on candy and cookies and donuts. Like that's crazy, right? How great and exhilarating would it be for them to be able to go to their bank account and see, oh, I got $400 in savings and I'm not spending that money, right? I've got $200 in investing and $100 in, giving. I spent up my $300, but I still have this other money left over so that I'm not broke, basically, because we don't want our kids feeling destitute and broke. If we don't set this foundation for them now, they're going to have to learn it like we learned it. And a lot of us aren't learning it till our 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, sometimes, maybe even older. And we don't want that for them, right? Okay. So in this example, they have $300. You could break it down for any amount. If they have $100, it doesn't matter how much or how small the amount is that they get. This is the breakdown for whatever they receive, whether it's $20, whether it's $100, whether it's $10,000 or $1,000. Doesn't matter. That is the breakdown. Because once you set that precedent, now you're, again, normalizing this is just what I do. This is part of my life. This is part of my process. It doesn't matter if, oh, I only got $10 or, oh, I only got $15, because throughout life, their income's going to go up and it's going to go down. And they need to understand, like, you don't only create this budget when times are good. You don't only follow this budget when things are great. You follow this budget, period. You don't only brush your teeth when you wake up in a good mood. You brush your teeth every day, right? This is just what we do. It's part of our life, right? So again, when my son, he did a job for like one of our neighbors up the street. I think he like cut her grass or he like did some with her flowers. She paid him. He said he's going to charge her 20. She ended up paying him 30, right? So he got $30. He's like, oh, well, it's only $30. Sir, I don't care. I don't care if it's only $30 because she actually paid you more than you were supposed to get, but that's neither here nor there. You only got 30. You still got to break it down. And so at 13, he is not at the, this is a very normal thing, not yet at the maturity level to understand this is what we do. But as the mom, I set this tone for him so that when he's out of my house, when he's in college, when he's out of college, when he does whatever he does for his career, this is a part of his life. And this is what I suggest that you do. Okay. So again, he really, in this case, that your child only has a $300 to spend. Because if they see that they got $1,000, what are they going to do? They're going to spend it all. They're going to be like, oh, I got $1,000. I can afford to buy an Xbox. You already got PlayStation. Like, do you really need an Xbox too? Right. Seriously. Or, I got $1,000. I can spend it on, say they're a little bit older. I can spend it on my girlfriend or my boyfriend. Like, no. We're not doing that, right? They're going to spend whatever they have. And so think about it kind of like a pie, like not a pie, but a circle. Let's use another color, right? So think about it kind of like a circle, right? So these are different like dishes on the plate. So my graph is going to be off, y'all, but just work with me here. You know what I'm trying to say. So let's say 40%, of the plate is the savings. So, 50% would be here. So let's say, I don't know, let's say this is 40%. I don't know. That's probably not 40%. Let's say more like that. I'm not an artist. Work with me, okay? Let's say that's 40%, right? So that's how much they have. There we go. So that's 40%. All right, so this is the 40, right? And then let's say the other 30 is the spending. Let's say that's here. No, that wouldn't be there. Let's say it's like here. So that's the 30, right? And then they got another 20, another 10. So let's say this is 20, this is 10. Okay. So that's kind of how it works. So when you think about it kind of like a pie or a circle or a pizza or a plate, this is what we're saving. This is this part right here. That part is all they have available to spend. Everything else is savings. Right? So again, they don't have expenses. They don't have expenses. Now, you as the parent, you as the adult, you are to provide their housing, their roof, provide them with a roof over their head. You're to provide them with, food for them to eat. But for my son, if he wants to, again, go to 7-Eleven with his friends, that's on him. Because at this stage, at any age, they need to understand that they have money to spend. But once that money's gone, because it's a budget, because that money's gone, it's gone until you get paid again. So it's up to you if you want to go and spend all your money in one day. And the thing is, I can preach this gospel all day long to my child, but until he's experienced being at a level where like, oh snap, I don't have any money left, only then will he understand that pain. So you kind of got to like allow them to experience it and not block them from having that like failure, if you will. Because if you block it and you always tell them, well, no, you can't spend it because you only have $300, you only have $200, and you spent 150 of it, you only have 50. So I'm going to prevent you from spending it. That's not going to teach them that they have to then be smart about how they move their money. Because again, one day they're no longer going to be in your house. One day they're no longer going to be under your jurisdiction or your control, right? At some point, whether it's 18, whether it's 25, whether it's 30, who knows when your kid's gonna move out your house, right? And so they have to be able to have that feeling of destitution a little bit before it matters. Because when they're a kid, they don't have any bills, right? They don't have any debt. It's way better for them to learn this at this age, whatever the age, whether it's 5, whether it's 2, whether it's 15, 18, whatever. It's way better for them to learn that at this age than for them to get to adulthood, have a car note, have student loan bills you got to pay back, have what else do people do? Housing and all that sort of stuff. And then now they can't pay their bills because they didn't learn the foundation of feeling the hard lesson, or someone said natural lesson, hard lesson, natural consequences, says Michelle, hard lesson says Philly, right? These hard lessons of, hey, I remember how that felt when I didn't have any money and I don't want to go back there. So let me make sure I am rationing out the spending money. Like even the spending money has its own budget, right? And that's for them to come up with. But this is very important for you to allow them to have that challenge, okay? Now, the reason that you want to open up 4 high yield savings accounts and put the spending into the high yield savings account is because when you open up that checking account, when they want to spend money, right? We want to create delayed gratification. Because how many of us have bought something that we did not need because we happen to have the money in hand at the time or available to us, and we just went and spent it and then had buyer's remorse. But we stuck on it for so long that it's now too late to return it. And now we just got this expense, whatever. Right. So if we can create delayed gratification, which equates to patience, okay, the budget is the discipline, all right, and the consistency. And the delayed gratification is the patience. So I always say earning money, making money, keeping money, growing to $1 million is actually really, really simple, but it's not easy because it requires three things that humans don't naturally have. And that's discipline, that's patience, and that is consistency. But again, if we set this foundation as children for them, these become second nature. So they are now, this is just normalized for them. You are so welcome. She said, good to experience in a safe place first. Exactly. She says, yes, thanks for this. You are so welcome. Yeah. Because, we think as adults about how we got to get our money together, but we're not thinking a lot of times about how do we pass that down so our kids don't experience what we experience. Right. So again, you're going to open up those 4 high yield savings accounts. And when your child says, hey, I want to spend $60 on a video game. Okay. Because for my son, he's 13. Anything outside of food, housing, vacations, and big ticket items or whatever that that I either should provide or that I do provide, everything else is on him. Because we got 5 years left until 18. So 4.5 actually. So you got to learn this, right? And so he gets so mad, y'all. He's like, why can't you just buy? Well, mommy, can I have such and such? I'm like, yeah, you got it. You can spend it. You got spending money. You can spend whatever you want. Well, why can't you just buy it? Because it doesn't fall into a category that I'm covering right now. So if you want it, you can get it. Suddenly, he don't need it so much. Well, why are you being so mean? I'm not being mean. I'm not being mean at all. You have the money. Why you want me to spend it? It's all good if I spend it, but if you spend it, it's a problem. Right? Like, we're not doing that. So again, creating these natural consequences and these hard lessons that they have to learn. Right? So when you put that money in a high yield savings account, one, it's going to earn interest because again, your kid's not spending money every day. They're a kid. They don't have bills like we do. So we want that money to earn as much interest as it can while it sits there. Right? And so while it's sitting there, as long as it's a high yield savings account, it's earning at minimum 4.5 to 6% interest. Whereas if you just put everything in the checking account, it's earning nothing. It literally is earning nothing. And we want to also get them used to experiencing the joy of seeing passive income, right? Because we all, we want our kids to understand the value of hard work, but we also don't want them to work hard all their lives. We don't want them to be lazy, but we also want them to learn how to make money and earn money and make their money work for them. I always say we want our money to be Nick Cannon, right? As much as we may talk trash about Nick Cannon and all he does is, populating the earth, we want our money to be him, right? We want our money to go out and spread its seed and earn as much, make as many babies as possible. Make as many babies as you can for me, right? Because I want as much passive income as I can get. So when you do this, that $300 in this example, $30, whatever it is earning passive income for your child. And they start to understand, oh, let me be smart about where I put my money because I want to earn. I want my money to work for me. I don't want to have to grind my fingers to the bone all my life or any of my life if I can prevent it, right? I want to do what I love because I want to do it, not doing what I love or maybe hate because I have to do it, right? And so we want ease and simplicity and high quality of life for our children and for ourselves. And so putting it in a high yield savings account allows it to earn interest. And in the meantime, it earns interest, but when they're ready to pull it out, now you transfer some of that money into the checking account where it's not earning any interest, but you're only transferring it when they're ready to spend it. So if they go to their high yield savings account and they see, oh, I've got $300 available. And I'm going to look at my son and say, do you really want to spend all $300? And if he pushes me on it, I'm going to say, do your thing, bro. You got it. And when I say you got it, he's normally like, oh, but I'm like, I'm not going to stop you. Do your thing, right? Let's say he wants to spend $100 of that $300. Well, now you spent a third of your money. That's on you. All good, right? So I then transfer that money from the high yield savings account over to the checking account. But before I do that, Well, you got to remember when you transfer the money, there's a delay. There's like a 1 to 2 business day, maybe 3 business day delay. That gives them the opportunity to think to themselves, do I really want to spend this money? Maybe I won't spend $100. Maybe I only want to spend 20 of it. Right? It allows them to be more resourceful. Maybe they don't need the physical version of the video game. Maybe they can get the online version for 20 as opposed to the physical version for 60. Now it allows their brain to move and create more creativity with how their money is spent, and they can spend it smarter as opposed to just like, oh, I see this right now. My homeboy got this game. I got to go get it right now. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, say yes for me. Right? So that's what we want to do. We want to create delayed gratification, which creates the patience, which as they become adults, that will become normalized. It becomes normal to not spend all your money right away and allows you to think and process, do I really need to spend this money right now? All right. All right. So that's the savings. That's the spending part. The savings part. We're going to determine an emergency savings amount for our kids. Now, again, as an adult, you need to be saving 3 at minimum, ideally 6 months of your living expenses in your emergency savings account. As a child, you don't got really no emergencies because your parents gonna cover that. But an emergency for a kid might be, and this just happened to my son, a couple weeks ago. He was being careless with his phone. His phone dropped in some water. He was at like a water park party or pool party. He set it on the side of the pool, but I don't know why he thought that was a smart idea. Obviously, kids running in and out the pool. Somebody got water on the phone. We put it in rice. It didn't work. The phone was done. He needed a new phone. Again, hard lessons and natural consequences, right? I'm not buying you a new phone. I provided you with a phone and you were careless with your phone. Well, it wasn't my fault. Whose fault was it? Well, somebody got water on it. Where did you have the phone? Oh, my phone, it was on the side of the pool. Why would you think that was a smart idea to put your phone inside of the pool at a pool party? Why didn't you put it in the table or inside the house or something? Well, it's still not my fault. Well, regardless of whose fault it is, your phone is the one that's no longer working. And I supplied you with a phone once. That phone was supposed to last you. You made a decision that was not in your best interest. And now, just like if I did that, I would have to buy myself a new phone. You've got to buy yourself a new phone. Oh, he was so upset with me. Why don't you want to buy me a phone? Blah, 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 blah. Because I didn't mess it up. I gave you a phone, right? You messed it up. So you got to pay natural consequences, right? You got to take care of this. So he says, well, I got money in my savings account. You sure do. You sure do. How much money do you have? I got $1,000. No, you don't. You got 300. Well, I could just use some of the savings money. Nope. You got $300. Well, where am I gonna find a phone for $300? Maybe you can't get the iPhone 15. Maybe you need to get a different phone. I don't know what to tell you. Figure it out. Doing that allows them, again, to be more creative, to figure out what they need to do, right? And make a decision. So what did he do? Because I wasn't paying for it, he got the bright idea from his stepdad to say, hey, maybe I don't need to spend. I'm sorry, he had $400 because it was his savings. This is emergency savings. So this is an example of an emergency for a kid. So he had $400 to spend, right? But he was talking about spending the whole $1,000. So I'm like, no, you got $400. So he says, well, so stepdad's like, well, maybe, you can look on Amazon. So we go, those two go on Amazon and they find a phone, not an iPhone 15, which is not what my son had to begin with. He had like a 12 or something, right? And all of a sudden he wanted 15 because he got $1,000. No, you don't. You got 400. So his budget of 400 did not allow for him to be able to buy a brand new phone. So they go on Amazon and they find another iPhone. I think it was iPhone 13 at this point. They found a 13 for like refurbished for like $200 and some. Well, if you got $400, now you can afford that. But you still got to replenish your emergency savings, right? Because your goal is to get that emergency savings up to a number that we determine. So he and I have determined that $1,500 to $2,000 is going to be his emergency savings goal. Right. Again, he doesn't have any bills. He doesn't have 3 months of expenses or 6 months of expenses like an adult would, but he still needs to have some kind of emergency savings that sits into a high yield savings account for when things like this occur. Because he has to remember, I'm not paying for the stuff like this. This is on you. Okay. So I suggest you do the same thing for your kids. So whatever the budget is, you guys come up with a reasonable amount. It doesn't need to be $20,000 or $10,000 or anything like that. Something reasonable that a child could, attain through working and earning their money. And I don't suggest you give your kid an allowance. I'm totally against allowances. I got an allowance. I don't suggest that at all. Sean says, do you teach your son about crypto, or what are your thoughts on it? So we're going to get to investing in just a second. And he invests in the stock market and in ETFs. We don't do crypto with him yet. I think crypto is cool for people who understand how money moves and how understands the risks that come along with it. But I always say that passive income is not fast income, right? And so a lot of times we think that by like people talk about online all the time about passive income and how you can earn $1,000 passively in a month. And a lot of times that passive income they're talking about is not truly passive. They still have to do some work for it. They're like, there's some work involved. But I'm talking about truly, truly, truly passive income where you're literally doing nothing and your money is working for you. And so as a kid, again, when we get to the investing part in just a second, I'll talk about it, but we want them to, again, understand discipline, patience, and consistency. And so if they're chasing like the fast money, which could be crypto, I know you made a lot of money with crypto. If they're chasing that, they don't, again, we're setting the foundation, right? They don't set the foundation for patience and discipline and consistency. So my son doesn't do crypto, but he does do the stock market. But I don't think crypto is bad. I just think that it's very volatile. And I think that you have to be in a financial place where you can for real lose money and be okay with losing money because you got so much money elsewhere. But most people don't have that. And they're just trying to get the quick fix of the crypto. And then they're like disappointed or upset when they lose money because they're putting all their eggs into the crypto basket, as opposed to the slow, passive growth that is more, I'm not gonna say it's never guaranteed, but it's more reliable, I guess is a better word. Because the stock market has always gone up over time. There are times when it dips, of course, but over time, over years, it always goes up. That's not always the case for crypto. So those are my thoughts. Okay. Thank you for your question, though. That was great. And I'm so glad to see you here. All right. So what was I saying? Okay. So for my son, his goal is $1,500 to $2,000. For your child, it may be different. If your child is 3 years old, $1,500 is going to be a lot for them to earn, a lot for them to try to earn, right? So it may be $200 for your child. It may be $300. Their emergency savings should be commensurate with the type of emergencies they might have, right? So again, the younger they are, the less emergency they might have because you're probably covering most of everything. However, as a teenager, as in the case with my son, or as an older teenager, as the case with some of you, their emergencies might be more. So, but it's very clear that we have to be very clear with them that we're setting the tone that, hey, this is for emergencies. This is not for, I got to ask my girl to homecoming and I need a suit, or I need to do some off the wall pomp and circumstance for the gram. Like, that's not an emergency, right? That's something you'd like to have. If you want to do that, that comes out of your spending account. So again, we're setting the precedence for the foundation for how this money gets utilized so that when they become adults, it's not foreign to them. It's very, very normalized. And this is just what they do. All right. So you're going to set that emergency savings account. That is your goal. And that's how much they're saving toward. So if they pull money out, in the case of my son, he had to pull out $200 some to buy his new phone, and he needed a case for it. So he had to buy the case, and he wanted to put a screen protector on it. So he had to pay for that too. We're at the phone store and he's like, oh, well, can you just get my screen protector? No, because I gave you a screen protector with the first phone. And this is not the first phone that I bought you. So no, because you need to have the responsibility in your mind that, mommy's not just going to take care of everything. And for some reason, he always asks me, like, you got other family members that you can ask, but I'm always the one that he goes to. I'm like, no, you need to understand that you're going to have to cover this cost, because guess what that's going to do? They don't never want to spend their own money. That's going to make them be way more responsible and way smarter about how they spend their money. But had I spent the money for his new phone, he would have been just fine with me spending $1,000 or more on an iPhone 13 or 14 or 15 for him. But because he had to spend the money, then it becomes, let me get creative about how I figure out this money. Let me ask some people that are in my circle, how can I get a phone that's within my budget? And that's exactly what this foundation that you want to set for them. Okay. So that's the savings part. So that's going to be the 40%. Now we are talking about the spending, which is the 30%. Now we're going to talk about the 20% for investing. All right. So Sean just asked about investing. He talked about crypto, but we're going to talk about what we are going to teach our kids, right? So as adults, again, a lot of times we are in it for the quick fix. We are trying to like level up our money as quick as possible, and we don't set the foundation. We don't understand that passive income is slow, is not always fast income, and we're just trying to fix our financial situation without creating the discipline that's going to allow us to keep the money once we have got it. Like I told you earlier, I don't really care how much money somebody makes. If I'm dating somebody, you make a whole lot of money, that's great. Congratulations. That doesn't impress me. It really doesn't. And sidebar, let me tell y'all a story real quick. So I was dating this guy recently. If you're in the Fix My Money Challenge, you heard me talk about it, right? He's out the window. Like he's already gone. Right. I don't waste time with people, right? First date, he asked me, do you know what your net worth is? Weird question to ask somebody on first date, right? I'm like, I'm like, yeah. He's like, what is it? I'm like, what's yours? So he says, well, mine's on Google. I said, okay. And that was it. He then proceeds to go to Google, or what seemed like Google, and type in his name and his net worth. And it pulls up, so-and-so is worth an estimated $1 to $5 million. And I'm like, that's great. I'm happy for you. And so he knew a little bit about what I do, as far as I know, but we hadn't really like discussed it in detail, right? So then he says, well, do you know yours? I said, yes. He said, well, what is it? So I tell him. He's like, oh, that's great. We're going to build something together. I'm like, awesome, right? Whatever. Thought it was a weird question. Nevertheless, y'all gonna think this is funny. So I just thought it was a strange question. Like, who asked that on the first date? Has anybody ever asked you for your net worth? Like early on, especially on a first date? That's so strange. Like those are marriage questions, right? That's not like we having a discussion about maybe getting married. This is not some like I went out with you for first day. I don't even know if I like you that much question. So so then he has he told, I was like, well, a lot of times this net worth stuff online is not actually accurate because how are they actually going to know what your assets truly are? He's like, oh, well, mine is accurate because you can see it says updated August 2024. So it's really, really accurate. But I can tell you that, it's between, it says $1 to $5 million, but really my net worth is like $2 to $2.5 million. I said, oh, okay. And I just moved on with my life. So a few days later, the way my mind works is like, I come back to stuff, right? And I was just like, why did he ask me that? That's so strange. So I asked him, I was like, what's that website that you said that you, found your net worth on? And he tells me like, oh, I don't remember the name of the website. So I said, well, what did you type in? And he says, I typed in my name and my net worth. I said, oh, because I was looking at mine. I wasn't looking at mine, y'all. I was just trying to figure out, where he saw this. So he says, I don't remember the name of the website. And he was really good at like deflecting with humor. So he made some kind of joke or whatever. And I just kind of moved on. The moment was over. So I moved on. After that, things didn't start adding up. And this is what I mean when I say, I don't really care how much money you make. Things just weren't adding up, right? Like where he lived, once I found out where he lived, it was like this like lower income housing area. And I'm like, why do you live here? And he's like, well, because, I pay for me, my mom, my sister, and my brother. And, we all have different apartments. So it just makes sense that we stay here. I'm like, oh, well, why you got to stay here? Why don't you stay somewhere else and they stay here if that's what they want to do? And he's like, well, I don't know. And he just made, again, some kind of joke and we moved on. I'm like, that's really strange. So then he tells me, and this is not why I stopped talking to him, but it's a factor, right? And other things, because there's just a lot of lies, right? So the next thing was that he was driving this truck and the truck had a Utah license plate. We live in Detroit. So I'm like, why does your truck have a Utah license plate? So he tells me about how he rents from this company that allows for month-to-month leases. Well, I go to the website when he shows it to me and it's actually month-to-month rentals. And I'm like, he's like, oh yeah, it's a brand new 2024 Dodge Ram. And I said, okay, great. But why Utah? So he goes, well, it had 12 miles on it when I got it. I only paid $960 a month, for a brand new car that only had 12 miles on it. And I'm like, only $960. That's a lot of money especially for a non-luxury vehicle. Like he knows I talk about money, but I don't think he understands the breadth of it, right? And so, he knew I had the challenge and all that sort of stuff, but I don't think he really understands how well versed I am in these sorts of things because my mind starts doing the math, right? And I'm like, well, why are you paying $960 for a not long-term rental, but for a month-to-month rental when you could lease the car? I don't even suggest leasing cars, but you could lease it if that's what you want to do for less with a local dealer. He's like, oh, because, I don't like long-term contracts. So that's why, rent from this place. And I was like, but it would be better for you to buy the car because if you bought the car or bought the truck, you would, if you bought it, you would eventually not have a car note and you would still be paying less than $960. I know that $960 a month is well over and above the average for a brand new car in America. The average used car note is $500. The average new car note is $700. So you mean to tell me you paying almost $1,000 for a truck just because it's brand new when the average is $700 and this ain't even a luxury vehicle? It'd be different if you was driving like a G-Wagon or something, or maybe if you were even driving like a Benz truck, but you're driving a Dodge Ram. Like, make it make sense, And so he's like, you ask a lot of questions. I'm just like, well, I asked a lot of questions because 2 + 2 should equal 4. And it's really equaling like 25 right now. And I just need to understand how we got there. And so he's like, he deflects with humor, and we move on. So that was the second thing. I know, crimson red flags, LaShawn, I know, right? And so we hadn't been dating that long, but I was going to continue to ask questions until things started to add up. But I figured like, well, let me just give it a little bit of time because I still need to assess his personality and determine if I like him like that. And I was starting to really like him like that. But I'm like, we got to figure out this finance situation because it's $2 million net worth ain't adding up to you living in low income housing and this truck that you paying $960 for. So what I've determined is that his credit is probably really, really shot. And he probably couldn't qualify for a lease or to buy or at a reasonable interest rate for a lease or to buy a car. So he probably rented from this company because it's month to month and there's no credit check, right? So or no credit, there's no interest. It's just a flat $960. So I'm like, that's probably what happened because otherwise it doesn't make any sense for you to pay that. And you're an entrepreneur, right? So he owns a couple businesses. And I'm like, as an entrepreneur, that your main goal is to cut your costs because some months are going to be balling out of control and some months you're going to feel homeless. So you got to kind of like save your money for these months that are leaner. Like this is basic entrepreneurship 101. Like this is not advanced strategies. This is just something you do. And he's been running this business for like almost 10 years. Like you're not new to this. So what's up? So that was the second thing. Then I was at his apartment one day. It's a nice apartment despite it being low income. And there was a note on the door. He had a note on the refrigerator. He had gone to my car to get something out of my car for me. Right, Nicole? Yes, I asked a lot of questions. Like, why is it a problem? If you was telling the truth, it wouldn't be a problem because you wouldn't have to come up and explain something, right? So then I'm at the apartment, and he told me that he has a cleaning lady that comes every Saturday. Put a pin in the note in the door for a second. So he tells me he's got this lady who comes to the house once a week on Saturdays. Now I've been over there several Saturdays and it look exactly the same. I've been on there on Saturdays. I've been on Tuesdays. I've been on Thursdays. Ain't no cleaning lady ever showed up. So he's like, well, my spot don't normally look like this. It's just like, I had this cleaning lady who comes and I hire a private chef for my mom. I hired a private chef for my mom. So, I got that expense as well. I'm like, why you got your mom living in low income housing if you got her private chef? Like your priorities are off, bro. Like, again, make it make sense. Now, mind you, I ain't never met the mama. I have met a brother. I ain't never met the mama. We'll get to the brother in a minute. So So I'm at the house, at the apartment, and there's this. He goes to my car to get something for me out of my trunk, and my nosy self, I'm like, what does it say? So I read the note. Hey Jeff, I'm telling the story we talked about the other day. And the note says that he had not yet supplied. It just came up. We talking about something else, but it came up. So I'm gonna finish the story. So the note said that he had not submitted his, yes, exactly, Nicole, balling backwards. He had not yet submitted his income to receive the income subsidy. Wow. So you're living in low income housing, and no shade to people who live there. But if you got $2 million net worth, you don't need to be living there, right? So he's like, I'm reading a note, and I'm trying to understand. It says he had not yet applied for submitted his income to receive the income subsidy. So you live in low income housing and you're getting a subsidy for your rent to be paid. I don't think you got this money that you're talking about. And it's like, why lie? Like, again, this is what I'm talking about. I don't care how much money somebody makes. I don't care, because it's people who, and he has some businesses. I'm not gonna say what his businesses are, but he has a couple businesses and a nonprofit, and they all bring in money. But if your expenses are greater than your income, it's not going to add up. So again, when I tell you all, it doesn't matter to me how much money somebody make. It matters to me how much money they keep. You can make $50,000 a year, but are you keeping $25,000? You're keeping 50% of your income. Are you making $750,000 and you are spending $1 million? How we gonna live? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm saying, like, this is not a dating episode, but just keep in mind, if you all are not married, right? Those of you who are still in the pool, like I am, which I really want to get out of here as soon as possible. If you're in there, just keep in mind that how much money somebody makes is irrelevant. It's so irrelevant. What they keep, how they grow their money, now that's what matters. And those are the questions that I want to know. I don't care what you do. I mean, I don't care what you do for a living. I really don't. Because I know too many people who make a whole lot of money and don't have any money. I know a decent amount of people who don't make a ton of money, but they have a fully funded emergency savings account. They have a fully funded, not fully funded because they're always growing it, but a nice, healthy fund in investing, all that sort of stuff, right? So that's why that's important. So back to the story. So I had asked him one day, I'm like, do you have a different vehicle outside of this work truck that you supposedly have? Because supposedly this Utah truck is a work truck. And I think he thought he was impressing me by telling me that the car was $1,000 a month, $960 a month. And actually that was like a red flag for me, because I'm like, that's way too much money to be spending on a vehicle like this. So I asked him, do you have another vehicle that you could drive sometimes? He said, oh yeah, I got another car. It's at the crib. So we're at the apartment the first time I go over there, and there is a SUV. Camille said he doing too much. Y'all, if you only knew the other half that I don't have time to tell y'all right now, y'all would be like, oh my God, Gwen. So there was this SUV that was sitting in one spot at the apartment. And he says, that's my personal vehicle. I said, oh, okay. I was like, well, why don't you drive that one? And he says, well, because my brother and my sister who live here, they usually, they drive Uber with the car. It's like a family car. So they drive Uber, and, they use that car. Now, I don't know if that car had a car note on it or not. We didn't discuss that, but I'm thinking, if you're willing to pay $960 for a rental car, for a month-to-month rental, then you probably have a car note on this car, right? So I'm thinking, well, how much Ubering they got to do to cover the cost of the car? Like, they can never, like $10 or $15 rides, like you could never make enough to cover the cost of this car note from Uber, right? So that was strange to me, but I said, okay. Now, I've been over there several times. This SUV ain't never moved. I've been over there it's been a couple. Now, during the whole time we were dating, there was never a time where we went more than 2 days without seeing each other. So I'm over there pretty often, right? We're really seeing each other pretty often. And the truck never moved. It's in the exact same parking spot every time. And I'm like, when are they driving Uber? You ask a lot of questions. I don't know when they drive Uber. Why you ask so many questions? Because you said they drive Uber. It ain't never moved. Well, they just park in the same spot every time. Really? Well, a parking lot full of cars, they happen to always get the same parking spot every day. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. So one day we go into the apartment. He says, "You're gonna meet my brother today." I said, oh, "Okay, cool." Now I know he got a lot of siblings, according to him. So he was like, "Yeah, he lives in Toledo. Toledo is maybe roughly an hour from where we live." So he says, "Yeah, he's coming. He lives in Toledo with his wife, but him and her are having issues right now. So he's actually spending some time at my house until things cool off, and then he'll go back." So jokingly, I said, "Oh, is this the same brother that drives Uber? Because it can't be the same brother because it's a whole hour away, right?" He's like, "Yeah." The thing about lies is that you got to remember your lie, right? So I said, how's he driving Uber in Detroit if he lives in Toledo? He come here every day to drive Uber? He's like, yeah. What? So wait a minute. Pause. You mean to tell me that this man lives in Toledo, an hour away, drives his vehicle from Toledo to Detroit to get out of that vehicle and get into a different vehicle to drive around in Uber? It ain't making sense, right? So he was like, "Yeah, that's what he does. It's not a lot of pickups in Toledo, so he like drives in Detroit. He driving the same car that don't never move." Anyway, so your parent, your family or whatever is living in low income housing just like you are. You haven't applied or haven't submitted your income for the subsidy to get the rent even cheaper. You have a vehicle that is a long-term lease, a long-term rental that's more than it would cost for you to just buy or lease the car here. You have another vehicle that nobody ever seems to drive, and you can't drive it because your siblings drive it, but it don't never move. What? Okay, so back to the net income. So I go to Google one day after I ask him, like, how did you find your the net worth, whatever. He says he can't remember. So I go to Google and I look it up again. I'm on page 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of Google looking for this because it's not showing up. Like other things about him show up, but never that. And it was the very first search result on Google when he showed it to me. So I am like, I ask him, where'd you find this? He said, I can't remember. It doesn't show up, bottom line. So like I said, he owns a couple businesses, and I know he uses Fiverr a lot. So if you guys don't know what Fiverr is a website that you can like hire like low cost, like graphic designers and website developers and anything that you really need that someone could do virtually. People can do it on Fiverr, and they're usually overseas and they cost a lot less. They're like super cheap, right? And a lot of entrepreneurs such as myself and him use it. He also uses Canva all the time because he has his nonprofit and he's always creating flyers for the nonprofit. So what I've determined, let me tell you what this man did, y'all. He went on Fiverr and got somebody to create a screenshot of a Google search that looks legit. Yes, LaShawn, he AI'd his net worth, basically, right? Here's the thing. He never once clicked into it. He only showed me the Google screen. So what he did is he actually had this in his phone and he pulled it up. It was a picture and he showed it to me because, again, I promise you, this never shows up anywhere on Google. And he was really adamant about proving to me that this is his true net worth because it was updated August 2024. He's like, see, it's updated August 2024. Like he was so like gung-ho about making sure I saw that part. And I was just like, yo, like, why? Now his businesses, when I do the math on how much they make, they do make a decent amount of money. Like one of them probably makes like, it's one thing, but it's two parts to it. And those combined probably make about $450,000 a year. Then he has the other thing. He claims that him and his family has food trucks. I've never seen these food trucks. He's never been to the food trucks as far as I know. So I think that was a lie. But, he makes decent amount of money. But that's all before expenses. Before you're spending $1,000 on a truck you don't need, before you're spending money on 4 different apartments, well, why don't you just buy a house? So everybody can live in a house. Like, it would be cheaper for you to do that than if you live here. Like, it's not making sense, right? So all those things on top of the expenses he had for the company, right? So again, your income is completely irrelevant to me. What matters to me is how are you spending? Are you smart with your money? Because if we're going to be together, I need you to be like making smart money moves. And at my big age, I don't got time. I'm trying to teach my son. I don't got time to teaching you too. Like, you need to come, I'm not in the process of like build a man. Like, I need you to like come with it. So I'm happy to like help, but you got to have a foundation. And this is what I'm talking about. So we got to have our kids to have the foundation. Clearly, this person I'm talking about, he knows how to make money, but he obviously doesn't know how to keep it. And so regardless of how much money he brings in, he's not keeping enough of it because the priorities are in the wrong spot. You paying $960 per month for a rental, but you live in low income housing and you're applying for a subsidy. You can't afford to live, right? We don't want that for our children. Isn't that story crazy, y'all? And there's a whole nother part that I can't even talk about, but lots of red flags, at least financial red flags, right? And we don't want our kids to grow up to be him, right? We want our kids to be very smart about their money. And so when it comes to investing, I don't want you, that 20% investment, I don't want you to encourage your kids at this age to invest in things that they don't understand, right? They need to be investing in things that get them excited because investing is a slow growth process, right? Passive income is not always fast income. And so if they're investing in something that they have no interest in at that age, let's say, in the case of my son, he's really into Nike. He's really into EA Sports, which is video games. He's really into the NBA. All those sorts of things. He goes to 7-Eleven all the time with his friends. Like, these are things that he does. Excuse me. If I have him investing in things like, I don't know, let's say, what's something that he would not be interested in? Like green energy, right? He's not interested in that at all. Might be a really good investment, but at this age, they need to be doing something and investing in something that they're going to want to continue to do, regardless of like the amount of the growth, or not the amount of the growth, but the time it takes to grow the money. I know, Camille. So y'all, sidebar, if you know anybody who's like a really good like person, really good fit, please send them my way, because I don't want to be in this dating pool anymore. And because they're full of stuff like that. Right. Like, he was great. Personality, amazing. Had the best time together. Super consistent, super like affectionate, lovey-dovey, all that sort of stuff. But this is a huge issue, right? It's a huge issue. So we don't want that. So whatever your kid is into at whatever age they are. So if they're really young, they may be into Disney or Nickelodeon. If they're a little bit older, like my son, they may be really into sports. They may be very into video games. They may be into certain food companies, right? So my son loves Chipotle, so he's invested in Chipotle. He's invested in Nike. He's invested in EA Sports, right? These are things that he can get excited about, so that when he goes and patronizes these brands, he feels like an owner as opposed to just a consumer, right? And so even if he sees some Adidas shoes that he likes, he's like, I gotta go buy Nike because I gotta support my company. Like, he understands, this is my company. This is a company that I own stock in. Therefore, I am an owner of this company. It may not be a whole lot of stock, depending on how much he's spending, but it's stock, right? And it's my company because I own it. And that's what I want you all to do for your kids. So whatever it is that they're into, if they're like really into math, maybe Texas Instruments, who makes, the calculators and all those sorts of things. If they're really they're a big foodie, there may be stocks that, would align with that, like food brands, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever it is, fast food, even more non-fast food places. Like I said, like Chipotle, which is like more like fast casual, right? If they are into cartoons, Disney, Nickelodeon, those sorts of things are going to get them excited. Now, as an adult, You may say, well, I'm investing in these things, but I'm also investing in these other things. So I know these other things make a lot of money. Now, you should encourage your child to invest in companies that you know are going to grow a lot anyway. But when they start to invest for themselves and they're choosing stocks, and you should allow them to choose stocks, you should be teaching them how to research stocks. If you are in or were in the Fix My Money Challenge, or if you are also now in My Rich Friends, you learned how to research ETFs, which is the same way that you research stocks, right? And so you want to teach them how to do that. These are all things that your kid needs to learn. But as the custodial parent, you can also say, well, I'm going to let you spend out of your 20%. You have $200 in this example to be able to spend on stocks. We're going to spend 50 of it on things that I'm going to choose for you that I know are going to grow. And you're going to choose the other 150. Right. And then you let them choose whatever they want. Now, they only have $200 to spend. So do you want to put all your eggs in one basket? Probably not. You probably want to diversify. You want to teach them diversification. But because they are so young, because they have the benefit of time on their side, the beautiful thing about this is if your kid invests, even if your kid is already 18, okay, obviously the earlier the better. If you can start investing for them when they're a day old, that'd be great. But a lot of us don't have that luxury right now, right? So if your kid is 18 years old and they invest $100 a month, just $100 a month into the stock market, by the time they retire, they will be a millionaire. Absolutely 100%. If they invest $100 a month, which is really not that much money, right? If they invest that, if they allocate, again, this is part of the discipline. If they say to themselves, whatever money I get, I got to put 20% away. 20% is not a lot of money, right? 20% is not a lot. Let me rephrase that. 20% is not a lot of percentage in the grand scheme of the total that they have, right? So it's less than 50% because they're already saving 40, they're already spending 30. They got plenty of spending money. That 20% is nothing, right? But if they can take that and they can put that into the stock market, obviously, if they start this when they are 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, by the time they are 40 some years old, they will be a millionaire. If they start at 18, by the time they retire, they will be more than a millionaire, right? So the earlier you can start with them, the better. And this goes for all of you who have grandkids, great grandkids, nieces, play cousins. You know how we do, right? Play cousins, neighborhood kids who you mentor, whatever, right? Or your own kids. The value of compound interest is so great at this age, at this young age. If you invest that same amount of money when you're 40, by the time you retire, you'll have a lot more money, but you definitely won't be a millionaire, right? Or depending on what you invest in. Let me say that. Depending on what you invest in, you have a lot less of a chance of being a millionaire. But if you invest in certain stocks, you invest in certain ETFs, then you 100% can. But we're not going to chance it with our kids. We're going to have them start from a very early age so that we can almost guarantee, given the average rate of return, right? The average rate of return is between 7 and 10%, more closer to 10% every year. And then compound interest, because every year that every month that their money is in the stock market is earning more gains on the money that's in there. So they put in $100 this month and they earn, I don't know, let's say they earn, I'm just going to use round numbers. Let's say they earned $75 this month, hypothetically, right? So if they put in $100 and they earn 75 on that as a gain, right? The next month they're earning gains on 175, not the same 100. You feel me? So if you're doing that every single month for, for $100 a month every time, they're compounding on top of the additional money they're adding in. Yeah, they're going to be a millionaire easily, right? So I want you to get them started early with this. Dr. Nicole says he knows how to make money. He also knows how to lie. Absolutely. I was so disappointed. Like, I wasn't even devastated. I was just disappointed because I was like, man, like I really thought this was going to be something. And then it wasn't, And so some of my friends were like, well, you just give him a chance and, get to know him a little bit more. And I'm like, listen to me. What I'm not about to do is wait 6 or 7 to 12 months with somebody when I saw the red flags in month 1 or month 2. Like, you're not about to waste my time. You can waste somebody else's time, but you ain't about to waste my time. So he had to go. Again, amongst other things that he was lying about. So anyway, if they invested 20%, like I said, they're going to be a millionaire. All right. And that builds the habit of prioritizing. I'm move my mic. That builds the habit of prioritizing investing. Because for so many of us, we say we can't invest. We say we can't invest. And I've given example after example after example of how that's not true. A lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and therefore we can't afford to invest because we have debt. In the case of $960 for a car note, right? What if he had taken that $960 in a car note that he's spending every month? That's basically $1,000 a month, $12,000 in a year that he's spending on a car that's going to depreciate and not even going to be worth $12,000 in a couple years, right? What if he took that money and put that into a high yield savings account, or he took that money and he put that into the stock market? Even better. In 5 years, that $12,000, just with his additional, him adding that in there, 12 times 5 is $60,000. In 5 years, he would be investing $60,000 in the stock market over the course of 5 years, not including the gains that he would have earned. So he's going to earn gains on that $60,000. And within 10 years, if he never put another dime in there, if he invested in the right stocks, within 10, if he, if we had made it, I would have told him what to invest in, but he ain't make it. So, I ain't giving that information. But anyway, 10 years, like he would have hundreds of thousands of dollars. 20 years, he'd probably be close to $1 million, if not over $1 million. We got to think smarter, right? And so we want our kids to have that normalized from the beginning, because even with the average car note, if you don't have a car note, people who say that, I can't invest. Well, what are you spending your money on right now? Right? Are you living somewhere that you can't afford? Are you living somewhere that makes it harder to afford your lifestyle? Are you paying $700 a month for an average new car note, or $500 a month for an average new car note? Could you trade those cars in and maybe get a cheaper car that you could pay off in a year? Right? And now you've got $500 to $700 every month freed up. Put that in the stock market. Now you got money to invest. So when we say we don't have money, we have to change how we think and change how we talk, because it's not about you don't have the money. It's that you've made a choice to prioritize something else. And that's really what it is. And that may be a little bit like in people's faces, but the reality is the reality, right? Like we all have money for what we want to have money for. We all have time for what we have time for. You can never tell me somebody doesn't have time for you. Never. Nobody's ever too busy. Ever. Never too busy. And you may not feel like you have the money right now, but if you prioritize differently, you would. And so we want to teach our kids the prioritization now of investing, because that's how they're going to get rich. They're never going to save their way to wealth unless they were born into wealth or they inherited wealth. They will never save their way to wealth, ever. I mean, you could, they say, become a CEO of some kind of company, or become, a NBA or, sports player or whatever. And even then, like I said earlier, a lot of those people, they make a lot of money while they're in their career, but the vast majority of those people, they don't have that money 5 years later. They're working at a job. They're trying to figure it out because they didn't prioritize investing and saving and budgeting from an early age. Okay. All right. The last category is giving. So in this example, we said 10%. Okay. 10% is going to go to giving. 10% is going to go to giving. And the giving can be anything. This actually creates generous humans, right? We all know, or should know, that the more you give, the more you receive. But we can't give all of our money away, right? We got to survive for ourselves. And so we want to teach our kids, we want to instill in our kids generosity. We want to instill in them charity. Now, what I'm not going to tell you is that 10% has to go to church. It can. If you want to go to tithes, awesome. But they should be able to choose where they want to spend their money, what they want to spend their giving money. So in this example, there's 10% of that $1,000. So in this case, it will be $100 will be available for giving. That can be, again, giving the money to the church if that's what they want to do. That could be giving money to a homeless shelter if that's what they want to do. It could be buying gifts at Christmas time for a family that can't afford to buy gifts for their kids, right? They have all those adoptive family sort of initiatives. It could be anything. It could be somebody standing on the side of the road with a with a sign that says we'll work for food, right? And they want to give them the money, let them give them the money. A lot of people will say like, well, I don't know what they're gonna do with the money. That's really not your concern. That's none of your business. Like your blessing comes from your actions and what's in your heart, not what somebody does with what you gave them. Right. I feel like when people say that, it's really just an excuse for them not to assist this person or for them to justify for themselves. Well, I don't know how they're gonna spend it. Maybe they're gonna spend it on drugs. Maybe not gonna buy food with it. I mean, whether you give the money to them or somebody else gives the money to them, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, right? That's not where your blessing lies. Your blessing lies in where your heart is and what you do with it. So when it comes to my son, I allow him to spend his money, his giving money, however he chooses. Sometimes he wants to give it to the church youth group that he goes to. Sometimes he wants to give the money to a soup kitchen, like around the holidays and that sort of thing. Sometimes he wants to volunteer at the soup kitchen or volunteer, for a turkey drive or whatever, but give some of his money to purchase some of those items, right? So, it's whatever, but I allow him to have the autonomy of choosing how he becomes charitable. Again, all of this is setting the foundation because a lot of these, as you may have noticed, are about money itself, but a lot of them are about character development. So with this process, money is a tool that we are to use for the quality of life that we want and to serve others, right? So we are teaching them through this process discipline, patience, consistency, generosity, um, philanthropy, right? We're teaching them all these sorts of things just by them following this process. And so that is what I teach my son. Again, it doesn't matter what the charity is or what the initiative is that they want to do. I mean, it could even be they want to spend their money on buying books for like, one of those like free library things. If you ever seen them, they're like these little like birdhouse looking things and people put books in them. Maybe they want to buy some new books for that, right? Like, and put those in there. Like, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how they spend it as long as it is charitable and helping somebody else. And also understanding, that like not to be don't be a spendthrift, but also don't be a hoarder of money because the more you let go, the more comes back to you. I think a lot about Oprah, whether you like Oprah or not. I think a lot about Oprah in this case, or even LeBron James, right? Like Oprah has kind of on the down low sent like thousands of Black boys to Morehouse College. And a lot of people don't know about that, but she's been doing that since like the 90s, right? And a lot of these people who have graduated from Morehouse have 4-year full ride scholarships that Oprah handpicks and gives to them, right? And I think we all know that she does a lot of charitable stuff, right? Regardless, again, if you like her or whatever, the fact is that she does this. And it is no surprise to me that she is where she is because she's been doing this is very normalized for her. This is what she does. Think about LeBron James too. There's a lot of players who play basketball. Lots of them, right? Thousands. There's only one that has become a billionaire while they're still playing. And only a couple who have become a billionaire ever, right? And that's Michael Jordan and LeBron. But Michael Jordan's not really known for his charitable work. He probably does some stuff, but he's not really known for it. LeBron is like ingrained in that, right? So he has the school, the I Promise school. He gives a lot of money and scholarships to kids to go to college and to go to what are those things called? High schools. I can't think of the name of the schools, but they're high school, not private schools, but not charter schools. I can't think of the name of it. It's a different kind of school where you got to pay, right? So he gets a lot of money for that. He just does a lot of work charitably. And I think it's really no surprise to me that he has become all that he is. Because there's a lot of other players who play basketball who have also had rap albums, or whatever, been in movies, right? There's a lot of those have all done all the professional things that he's done, but there's only one that has really kind of superseded everybody else. And to me, when I look at the numbers and I look at kind of how he has moved, I don't see those other players doing those things, doing those charitable things and giving money away and helping other people and serving other people. And all that comes back to him. So again, that's what we want to teach our kids. Oh, she says, love it. Looking forward to your parenting series. Oh, thank you. Maybe I'll do that. Oh, prep school. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. It's basically a prep school. Yes. So he has his own school, as you know, because You live in Ohio. We Ohio girls, right? So he has his school, the I Promise school, and then he also sends people to prep school. Thank you so much for that, as well as pays for college for a lot of people. And so I think that's great. And I don't know if these are things that his mom ingrained in him, but I want it to be things that you ingrain in your kids. So again, we're teaching them all of these life principles because we want them to be good humans, but we also want them to be really, really smart with our money. And a really good way to do that is to teach them this budgeting principle that I've taught you. So again, 40% goes in savings, 30% goes in spending, 20% goes in investing, and 10% goes to giving. All right. And that's all I got for y'all. Did y'all like hearing my little horror dating story? It's really funny when I talk about it in hindsight, but I can promise you it wasn't funny when it was happening. It was not funny at all. Not funny. Like, how you gonna create a fake Google search? How thirsty must you be go out of your way to create a fake Google search to try and prove to somebody that your money is what it is? But again, he been dealing with people who get impressed by that sort of thing. You can't impress me with that because it's like, first of all, I know what net worth means. That doesn't mean money in the bank necessarily. That means if you sold all your assets, how much could you get, right? That's not necessarily money in the bank. And then, yeah, it's a mess. Anyway, it's funny. I'm so glad I dodged the bullet. And actually, when I realized all this stuff, I was just so grateful to God. I was like, thank you. Because although I liked him a lot, I'm like, what if I had gotten knee deep in here and like fallen in love? Now I'm gonna be devastated. And now at this point, I'm not. Like I said, I was just disappointed, like really disappointed, but not devastated. So thank you all for listening to that story. But I think it illustrated really strongly the point I was trying to make about it being more about how much money your kids keep versus how much money that they make. All right. So I appreciate all of you for being here today. Make sure that you haven't liked this video already, that you hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button as well and leave a comment and let the algorithm know that this is the kind of content that you like so that you will be served more of it because we all always want to get to the bag. If you are not yet a member of the Get Money crew, which is on Facebook, it's completely free. I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And you guys can join that. That is where we have a lot more content, a lot more engagement and community. Really, over 1,300 people helping each other get to their 7-figure net worths. And so if you want to be a part of that, again, it's completely free. Just click that. Last thing is that I want to remind you guys about My Rich Friends. If you are not yet a member of My Rich Friends, you want to check out the link that I just posted as well. It is a monthly membership where we have higher level money strategies to get you to that 7-figure net worth even faster, right? Not no fake where you got to like create a fake Google screenshot, but real actual numbers that look really good on paper and feel really good for your own personal gain. All right. Y'all have a blessed, beautiful evening or day. You have a blessed, beautiful day. And I will catch you guys next week on Run It Up Wednesdays for the Get Money Show. Talk to you later. See you later. Mwah! Bye.